Oh my god, this game. I have been obsessed with Octopath Traveler 2. I started to play it last Friday, so I've had about a week with this game, and it has become a full-time job playing this game. This is such an incredible experience. Of course, I'm a huge fan of the first Octopath Traveler. I've loved all of Square Enix's HD 2D games, loved Triangle Strategy, and I loved Live Alive, and this is really carrying on some pretty cool traditions, and I think meeting and exceeding a lot of expectations that we had. Clearly, the folks over at Square Enix understand the assignment of really capitalizing on this retro nostalgia road trip that we get to go on with these Octopath Traveler games. But I think what's different this time is that there's been a lot more attention and care paid to the storytelling and the way that the narrative for all of these different characters threads together. It's really, really addictive and exciting, and also incredibly challenging, which has become kind of a trademark for the Octopath Traveler games. This is a traditional role-playing experience, something that you would play on a Super Nintendo, but it's all been gussied up with beautiful HD 2D visuals, which means that the camera will pan and you'll see sparkly stars off in the distance, a little bit out of focus, or you might see the twinkle of lights in a village, or you might see a moonbeam coming through trees or something like that, but you can kind of walk through everything as if you're walking through a diorama or a pop-up book, and it's exquisite. It's so freaking lovely. When the first Octopath Traveler game came out, it totally took our collective breath away because we really hadn't seen anything quite like that before. All of these sprite-based characters and this very retro, nostalgic kind of vibe, but applied in this really distinct, visually striking way. It's incredibly stylized with big-headed characters and scenes and locations that we might see in a 16-bit game, but everything is just marvelous. It's kind of like what you would imagine when you played these games back in the 90s. It's kind of how you saw them in your mind's eye, but now with the technology of today, everything has been beautified, and all of these pixels have been converted into these 3D artifacts, and it's just incredible to explore them. The big kind of changes and additions to Octopath Traveler 2, I think, really focus on the idea of telling a story that connects these characters a bit better, but also giving you a little bit more agency. Like, you can change the day to night on the fly. You just tap I played this on the Nintendo Switch, you just tap the right trigger button and boom, the sun comes out or the moon comes out, which is really cool. You can also traverse into aquatic areas by boat, and it happens automatically. You just go off of a little dock and you start sailing around with you and your companions, and you're always on the hunt for chests. Chests are hidden maze-like throughout the environments of Octopath Traveler 2, and so there are a lot of invisible walls or cut-off areas where you think you might be able to progress, but you can't, and so you're constantly kind of spiraling around and winding around at each of these different locations, which are incredibly diverse. You've got snowy mountaintops, you've got desert villages, you've got jungle huts, you've got foresty towns, and you're looking in caves, and you're going down canals, you're going through more intricate kind of steampunk cities, and everything just looks so spectacular. It's a nice cross-section of almost every RPG trope that you can imagine from back in the day. And honestly, what keeps you compelled and hooked with this game, because it is a traditional role-playing experience where you're grinding, you have to level up, you're going to go into areas that are really, really challenging, and everything is clearly laid out for you. You get some warning before you walk into a level 17 area or a level 37 area. So if you don't grind, if you don't get out into the world and fight these monsters and buff up your experience points and get some job points, which give you all kinds of new endemic abilities, and you can also get a sub job as well, which gives you another menu of other offensive and defensive capabilities. And as you're progressing and you're picking up these job points, you're constantly unlocking new skills that you can take into battle. And then you also get some latent abilities that you don't have to do anything for. And one of them is you can actually cruise around the maps and get into less frequent random encounters, which sounds pretty nice, except you need those random encounters as you level up. And so you have to do that. The grinding becomes a deal. You're going to get into boss fights in this game that will go on for like 30 minutes, and you'll die at the end of that 30 minutes, and you have to start the whole thing over again unless you grind. And I think a good lesson that I learned while I played this is that if an area is kind of stating that I need to be level 30, I want to be at least level 31 or 32. And so it takes a long time to dig into this. And not the least of which, and I've been dancing around this a little bit, is the fact that you're playing as 8 different characters. And you pick one to start, and you start your journey, and it's all chapter-based, and there's a real story progression. But eventually, you travel from town to town, and you intertwine, and you connect with all of the other characters. So there's no FOMO. You don't really miss out on anything, no matter what you start with, because you're going to eventually meet up with everybody and learn all of their backstories and learn their missions. And the characters are broken up in a bunch of really interesting ways. I chose Throne, the thief, and she has this really cool ability when she's walking around towns where she can steal things. In the daylight, you can steal all kinds of stuff. Felt a little bad stealing candy and stuffed animals from kids, but I took them and I sold them. But you can also steal very useful things from villagers, like olives, which will bring back a teammate that has fallen in a battle, or the healing grapes, or, you know, a vast variety of different weapons and armaments and armor. Of course, there's lots of other different characters in here. You've got a nurse, you've got a merchant, you've got a scholar, you've got a cleric who also works kind of like a detective. He was pretty cool. Every one of these different characters brings with them their own skill set and their own abilities, and then you can augment them with different other jobs that you can pick up along the way. You can also join guilds and get some buffs and benefits that way. And trust me, this game is this truly fantastic marriage of exploration and reward and challenge, and they all kind of interconnect. There's no kind of fast tracking through this. You kind of have to go to every single nook and cranny and deal with every different character type and get into every corner of every story and every area to kind of pull your way through this. I don't know how anybody is going to speed run Octopath Traveler 2, but frankly, I don't know why you would want to speed through this game. And that's honestly what I have been doing. I didn't want to rush my review of this. I wanted to really soak this up and get the most out of this game. There's a lot, man. There's a lot going on with this. Even though it looks retro and like you might have seen it before, and even the HD 2D now has been around for a little while, there's still so much art in this game. I'm talking visual art and the fidelity and the beauty of it, but also the incredible score that is a part of this experience as well. There's so much beautiful music in this game, and there's so much great dialogue and great character interaction. Some of it's a little melodramatic, some of it is, you know, less well scripted than other parts of it.
Your very touch poisons the waters here, sickening all who drink it.
Some of it does veer a little bit into the cheesy area or the stereotypical area, but there's just so much freaking art, so much work in this experience. It's an incredible game. It absolutely justifies its full purchase price. I know a lot of the die-hard role-playing game fans out there and you know, super fans of Octopath Traveler 1 have already jumped in. So I guess this is for the folks out there that, you know, have been sort of thinking about this one and have been looking at it from a distance. Maybe you didn't play Octopath Traveler 1, and that's fine. You don't have to have played the first game to jump in and get tons out of this experience. And maybe you don't really have a huge connection or allegiance to the classic days of Super Nintendo role-playing games. And that's fine too. There's still so much modern and beautiful work in this experience that I can pretty much guarantee if you give it the time. And it does demand some time. You know, it takes a little bit of learning the systems and understanding that you have to grind, and you're going to get into battles that have a familiar feel to them again and again, because that's a core tenet of the game. But there's also all of these other intricate details and so much freaking value. It's a contender for best of 2023 already. I can tell you that right now. I will be very shocked if this isn't in my top 10 at the end of the year. I absolutely adore Octopath Traveler 2. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10.